Hey, what's going on, True Blazer fans? It's Tori, and I'm back with another weekly recap. We're going to be talking about the previous 3 games. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at ToryJonesYT and follow the channel on Twitter at TrueBlazerFan. With that being said, let's jump into each of the games from the past week. I'm going to talk a little bit about each one. The Sacramento Kings loss was very disappointing, and we just came out flat. That was on the second night of a back-to-back, and we had just lost the night before in Denver, which was a very tough loss by 3 points. So it didn't surprise me that they came out flat against Sacramento, and the Kings are a team that plays with a ton of energy. The next game, however, was a great bounce-back game. We played the worst team in the league, and I was lucky enough to be there to witness Yusuf Nurkic dropping a triple-double on the Cleveland Cavaliers. The game after that was against the New Orleans Pelicans, and in that first game we played them earlier this season, they didn't have Anthony Davis. This time they did, so I really wanted to see how he'd respond to playing against the team that absolutely crushed us in the playoffs last season, and we responded as well as I could have hoped. They didn't really trap the pick and roll too heavily like they did in the playoffs. That was kind of disappointing. I wanted to see how the Blazers would respond to a team trapping them like that, to see if they've improved against that type of defensive coverage, which has always been their nemesis. Jake Layman absolutely went nuclear in the second quarter, and I can't believe this guy wasn't even playing earlier this season. I love the way he plays, his movement off the ball, his energy, his three-point shooting when he gets it going, his ability to pull up from mid-range. Some of his drives to the hoop look so athletic. This one that he had right here, man, I want to see what he can become as a slasher. I can't believe this dude wasn't playing earlier in the season, but it's nice that he's back in the rotation and producing at a very high level. It's also nice when Al-Farouq Aminu is hitting threes, which he did in that New Orleans Pelicans game. Between him and Jake Layman, they shot very, very well, and that's the type of shooting that we need to make teams pay for trapping us in the playoffs. Maurice Harkless came back from injury and was immediately thrust into the starting lineup, and that leads us into our first talking point. Jake Layman versus Maurice Harkless. This is probably going to be a talking point for the rest of the season. Should we start Jake Layman or should we start Maurice Harkless? And I can see arguments on both sides, and before the game I was pretty disappointed that Maurice Harkless immediately reclaimed his starting role in that starting lineup, but as the game went on, I started feeling more neutral about it. Part of that was Maurice Harkless played great. He started off with 8 quick points, and he does bring a lot of the same things that Jake Layman does in terms of their off-ball movement on offense. When Harkless is engaged, he's about as good as Layman. The two differences in them as players is Layman gives you that more consistent offensive threat, attacks the rim a little bit better in my opinion. He can pull off the dribble from mid-range and the three-point line, which isn't Harkless's game, and he's a little better spot-up shooter. He gets his shot off a little bit faster, and when he gets hot, he has offensive nights that Maurice Harkless can only dream of having. Maurice Harkless will never have 20 points in a quarter in his NBA career. He will never go on a run like Jake Layman did against New Orleans Pelicans, but Maurice Harkless also brings it a lot more on the defensive end than Jake Layman does, so it depends on what you're looking for in that starting lineup. I wanted to see Maurice Harkless come back and play his heart out to reclaim that starting small forward role. I wanted to see him and Jake Layman fight for it and it go to whoever was most deserving, but Maurice Harkless played with that edge that we need from him in that Pelicans game, so I don't think he needs any extra motivation. Just as long as Harkless is engaged and therefore cutting on the offensive end, then he's still a very good fit in the starting lineup. I just think Jake Layman, if he's coming off the bench, he should be playing 25 minutes a game, because the more minutes you give this guy, the more he produces, and he's just getting more and more confident. I feel like nights where he goes nuclear like this will become more and more frequent. He needs a few more shots. He's been very, very efficient this year, and he just needs a bigger role in general, because I love the way this dude plays. I think he's very underrated. Back to Yusuf Nurkic's triple-double. This dude as a passer has been great lately, and it has returned to the Nurk fever days from when he got traded from the Denver Nuggets to the Portland Trail Blazers. I've been asking for this. Even before the season, I was hoping that he could kind of get back to that facilitating type of big man that he was right after we acquired him. And lately, he's been throwing dimes, especially on backdoor cuts. In the playoffs, teams often try and take away all our perimeter movement, but we still try and run dribble handoffs. We still try and get our perimeter movement going. We still try and pass the ball a lot around the perimeter, and we get kind of stagnant. Lately, we've been doing a great job at back cutting when perimeter defenders try and take away our perimeter actions, when they overplay us, when they play too far up the line. But the thing is, if you have good back cuts, you still have to have somebody that gets them the ball, and that is Yusuf Nurkic right now. The way he perfectly leads his backdoor cuts might be better than any center in the NBA outside of Nikola Jokic. He places the ball perfectly on backdoor cuts. throws it with the perfect amount of touch, lets the back cutter run to the ball, the defender can't catch up to it, and it results in lay-in after lay-in after lay-in, and it results in games where Jusuf Nurkic pushes 10 assists, and he finally got 10 assists for his triple-double against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I did think it was pretty cool that Dame said, I'm going to get you this 10th assist, I'm going to get you a triple-dub, just give it back to me, I'll pull from 3, and in person, when Dame shot this shot, it was weird, I knew it was going in. I knew that Dame wasn't going to let down Jusuf Nurkic, so that was a very cool moment, and I just think that is a perfect resemblance of Jusuf Nurkic stepping up as a passer once again. I'd say he's even a little bit better than when we first acquired him from the Denver Nuggets. Now, he still has games where he'll have 0 assists, 1 assist, 2 assists sprinkled in around games where he has 7 or 8 assists, which is kind of weird to me, because that just shows it's not consistent. Maybe teams aren't overplaying us. I don't really know what the reason for that is, so if you have an explanation for that, leave it down in the comment section below because I'm curious. I do think he needs around 13 to 15 shots a game. He's been very efficient in the low post lately, and he's been finishing really well off the pick and roll. I just want us to get him more looks, especially looks where he's able to get deep position in the post before we throw him the ball. We don't really have sets that achieve him getting deep position in the post. Him 5 feet away from the rim is a very strong position, and his hook shot has been falling lately, so I want him with the ball close to the rim. Sprinkle that in with his high post touches and his touches at the top of the arc, utilizing him as a passer, and I think that is the best way to utilize Jusuf Nurkic. As a passer, he's great right now. I just wish we'd get him more shots. The past 2 games against the Cleveland Cavaliers and the New Orleans Pelicans, I've noticed an improvement in the style of play of CJ McCollum. He's not forcing much one-on-one ISO ball. He's not completely stagnating the offense by going into his series of dribble moves. He's taking a lot of shots within the flow of the offense, and I believe he's taken 12 and 13 shots in each of those 2 games respectively. That's a pretty decent amount when he's struggling. Now, when he gets hot, that's when I would be okay with him trying to create his own shot. When he's in the zone, that's when his one-on-one basketball works. The problem I had all season was when he was slumping, it seemed like he would try and play more one-on-one basketball to try and bust himself out of that slump, and it would be at the expense of the team. He just needs to play within the flow of the offense, let the offense get him good looks to get him going, and then once he gets that confidence, once he's in that zone, then I'd be okay with him trying to create on his own. He hasn't gotten into that zone the past 2 games where he's able to drop 35 points like he's able to do on some occasions, so it was nice to see him simply not force anything at all. It was nice to see him just take shots within the flow of the offense, hit a few, but not take too many, not force anything, and let the offense work as it's designed to work. Hopefully this isn't a blip on the radar, and hopefully he's able to continue to improve his style of play and his presence within our offensive system, because we need CJ McCollum down the stretch. We need him to be able to play within the flow of the offense. We need him to be able to get going out of that instead of one-on-one. Looking ahead, we have a very tough road trip, starting off in Utah, who killed us the past 2 games, and we're going to have to try and flip the switch because this is a team that's catching up to us. They're on fire lately. They've won 6 in a row. If we lose this game to them, they could pass us in the next week. I don't want that to happen. We definitely need to take care of business for once against the Utah Jazz, show them what we're made of, and come out with a win and put a little bit more distance between us and them and halt their winning streak. There was a game in February last year where they were on a big winning streak and we went into Utah and we absolutely crushed them. So we've done it before when they've had a lot of momentum. So let's do it again. After that, OKC, we swept them last year, and then our first game this year was a heartbreaker that we barely lost. I do think they're overrated. They've had a very easy schedule. We need to go into their house and get some revenge and take care of business in Oklahoma City. Honestly, I'm just hoping that we win one of these games because this is 2 very tough road teams to beat. But if we could win 2, I'd be ecstatic. If we don't win either, we might be in 7th place after this because the West is just that tight. After those 2 games, we come home and have a very easy stretch of teams and have multiple days off between games. So we'll be able to get some rest, practice some things that we're struggling with, and we'll be able to beat up on these bad teams that we have left on our schedule. We just need to take care of business against Utah and Oklahoma City. So that's all I got for this week, True Blazer fans. I hope you enjoyed this video. Monday mailbag dropping tomorrow, and then I will have another trade video very soon for you guys. I've been trying to get more of a feel for where this team is headed in terms of what trades they might possibly make, and honestly, I'm still kind of confused and unsure as to what is going to actually happen. But I will have a trade idea video for you guys soon, and I'll try and make those trade ideas as realistic as possible, and I will talk about some of yours that you left on the last trade idea video about 2 weeks ago. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Have a great week, True Blazer fans. Go Blazers.